Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. He's a co-founder and chief operations officer of Nutrisense, a metabolic company that helps you discover and reach your health potential. Under his leadership, Nutrisense has led the company through rapid growth to become one of the fastest growing startups in the world, building a team of 170 people in 3 years and raising $32 million. Prior to that, he was in healthcare management at KPMG, advising Fortune 500 companies. Welcome to the podcast, Dan Zavorotny.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. Big fan.
Oh, I'm a big fan of yours too. I'm really impressed with your track record, and I just wanted to get that last name right. That was my goal.
Well, we got it there.
I'm so happy. All right. So since you have such an awesome success story, I want to get to the thing behind the thing of your story of building a company from an idea to $100 million, including challenges and perseverance that you faced along the way, because I really started this podcast to help people be unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, almost every challenge can be solved. And I think if we take a step back and look at our challenges starting this company, when my co-founder told me this idea, he said, "Hey, you want to do this with me?" And I said, "Let's do it." And just pull the trigger, quit my job 2 weeks later. And we started it. And he basically said, "Okay, at the early stages, only two things matter: build and sell. What are you going to do?" And I told him, "Well, I know how to do budgeting, finance strategy, financial modeling, PowerPoints." And he said, "So what part of that is build and sell?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know how to do either one of them." And his question to me is, "So what the hell are you doing here? Like, why are you doing this? Maybe you should go back to your job." And I said, okay, I'll do build. What do I got to build? And he said, "You have to build a platform, like actually build software. Do you know how to write software?" I said, "No idea." He's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, what's the sell part? What's the sell part?" He's like, "Go figure out how to market and get customers on the internet." And I said, "Okay, sounds good." I went online, Google how to get how to market on the internet, got like hundreds of strategies, put them in an Excel file, came back to him and said, "Okay, cool. I got these strategies. What's next?" He said, "Pick one." I said, "Okay, what's my budget?" And the answer was zero. And in some ways, there's that fear setting in from one side. It's, oh my God, it's sink or swim. The other side is because there was no budget, no money, it was easier because you had less choices to choose from. And I think a lot of us fall in this paradox of choice. We have too many choices. We don't know where to go. And when you have no money, no nothing, you kind of have to, it was like really, we were left like three strategies, which was like Facebook groups, then with influencers, and then we also did health expertise with either conferences or health podcasts we would get interviews on. And those are really the only three ones that are free. And we said, all right, so let's try these three. And just started swinging for the fences and then adjusting strategy constantly. And within like 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks, we got to like $8,000 in revenue. A month later, we got to about 15, 16,000. And then fast forward to, let's say, a year later, we were about $1 million monthly revenue.
Monthly, so, that's a very impressive. Was it the influencer marketing, the podcast marketing, or the Facebook?
It was a little bit of everything. But it was really just about not being afraid and just going for it, right? Knowing that you're going to get rejected. And I think the rejection's the reason people don't really ever move. They're afraid. The fear is what's driving people to stop.
Yeah.
And so because the irony is because I quit my job and now all of a sudden I had no job, I'm like, oh shoot. The fear is more of like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to go back. I think that if I found out that I had no budget, I had to do marketing or product development, which I knew nothing about, prior to quitting, I might have not quit. So it's almost ironic that me quitting my job thinking, we're going to go do this, forced me to almost force this fear to be overcome. But since then, as I retrospectively analyzed, I realized almost every single skill can be learned or taught. The thing about it is most people just don't make the effort. And it's really a three-step process that I've been using, and I've been teaching other people to do this, and it's been very, very effective. Where pick a topic in a situation like say Facebook ads, right? That's one of the things I looked into the Google ads, Twitter as well as Facebook ads. First step is just got to go and break the thing. Go on the Facebook ads platform, press every freaking button, spend the $500, knowing it's not going to bring you any value besides just learning. When I say break it, you actively have to make sure you understand every single thing that happens. What I do is I write notes and I have hundreds of notes just written everywhere about this topic. And then I call the reps and I ask millions of questions. But that's very, very critical, just breaking the thing. The second part is, getting exposure to what's out there. So whether it's listening to podcasts, books, YouTube channels, blogs, every single thing, you want to dive into it. And the third one is really finding someone who's 1 or 2 years ahead of you in that specialty. And then
Yeah.
having a couple of people mentor you and then come with those questions that are not answered. People usually do 1 out of 3. They don't do all 3. But by doing all 3, I tell people within 3 months, you can get to like 80, 90% of the top of the people. And people say, well, but there's someone who's 99 percentile. And I tell them it doesn't matter. You don't need to be the global expert. You just need to be
Yeah.
good enough and better than the rest to be.
Yeah.
And then after that, what you do is once you get to 80, 90%, you just hire someone better than you. But you can now evaluate what's good. The problem with people is, when you try to hire someone like, oh, you're going to do Facebook ads for me. And somebody tells me something about Facebook ads. If I've never logged into it, I've never done it, I don't know what's good and bad. And you can't unfortunately take people's word for a fact. Yet most people do. And so I just use that methodology across everything. I just picked a topic, Facebook ads did that, got pretty good, hired someone better than me, did content, got someone better than me. Google ads just won one by one by one. And now I think we have a 25-person marketing team all across everything. And it's been pretty effective. And it, moved to other areas, moved to HR, moved to legal, moved to did some coding as well. I finally learned it, but it's that overcoming fear. And I think I used a mental strategy that's been very effective, where one of the things that happens when you're about to do something new you've never done before, everyone always has a fear. And the fear comes from, your heart beating faster, your pupils dilating, your blood pressure increasing. But if you sit down and think about it and say, hey, I already know, and you consciously think about, these things are going to happen, the physical attributes, and you accept them and you almost kind of like involve yourself in those physical attributes, then you're not as worried about mentally because you've already accepted the pain we have from fear of failure. And I
Yeah.
think that's been also very effective. So I've taken those steps and it's been working pretty well. Hopefully it keeps going.
Well, I love that you were self-taught. I love that you go to just breaking Facebook and just trying to take notes. I'm a huge note taker. And I love the fact that you just feel the fear and do it anyway. Because as an entrepreneur, I know what it's like, and things are scary, and there's a lot of
Yeah,
unknowns, and there's a lot of pushing through failures and failing forward. So I love all of your strategies. I'd just like to go a little bit further
sure.
into leadership, because in 3 years, you've done a terrific job with hiring team, gross revenues. What tips do you have for our audience on leadership, Dan?
Sure. I think one of the key attributes here is realizing like there are different types of leaderships and everyone works differently. But I think one of the key attributes for success is hiring very effectively.
Right.
However, people always think that they have to hire 100% of the time. I always tell people, if you can hire 50% correctly, you're the best hire there is,
Right.
right? And people always think, oh my God, I hired 4 people and 2 didn't work out, or 1 didn't work out, it's so bad. No, it's literally that difficult. And by having a framework of like 50% is the best I'm ever going to aim for, you end up feeling less pressure on yourself. But the second part is, and this is critical, it's parting ways with people. As
Yeah.
a leader, you have to realize that I've never heard a single person say, oh, I let go of this person too early. I think it's critical to part ways as early as possible and you see the wrong signs of the person.
Yeah.
And the reason for this is one, as a leader, you have to make the hard decisions, not the wrong decisions. Let's make the right ones. The
The
hard
hard
decisions.
part. Yeah, it's
You have
hard
to
to
make the
let
hard
people
decisions.
go, but you can't like be accepting subpar work at the same
Yeah.
time.
And so what happens is this, a couple parts. This is very hard. No matter how many people you let go, it feels terrible,
Yeah.
like atrocious. And to be totally frank, I think I'm over 150 people now letting people go.
Right.
right? Because it's just like when you grow fast, you're gonna make even more mistakes. And so, but you have to realize from two perspectives. One is the rest of the team appreciates it more. Because when
Yeah,
you have a lot of A+ players and they're working and trying to make something happen, and you have someone else who's just like hanging out, the work falls on those other people. And they themselves start wondering, are you the right person to lead them? How are you not seeing it? Right? Because they start questioning your judgments. And so they become less motivated. And I've seen this over and over where everyone already on a team knows who's the less, the worst performer. And they start wondering, should I be here? Is this the right organization for me? Because I'm here to learn and win. That's
right.
number one. But number two is this individual, it doesn't mean that they're not smart. It might not be the right place and the right position for them, right? They might be a C player in your company, but they might be an A player in a different company.
That's
And I think parting ways people, you just kind of give them an opportunity to find a place that's a good fit for them.
that's another great spin. And I love the way you talk about leadership and hiring team. Do you have any tips for our audience, Dan, about hiring the right team besides just letting go of the wrong ones? Because no one likes
Yeah,
that, but the way you spin it, it's like takes a burden off of the other people and gives them an opportunity to find a better fit.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what stage you're on. If you're really early stages, let's say when I say early stages, under 50 people, it's
Yeah,
different versus when you're hiring your 1,000th employee. Under 50 people, every single person has to be a doer. What I mean by that is you can't hire people who are going to come in and say, oh, once I'm going to manage. This is the part where people who are afraid to get their hands dirty, they're not going to be the right people. And so you want to, at the beginning, be extremely transparent and tell people the good and the bad. Because when you set those expectations up front really early, what actually happens is a lot of the poor performers will weed themselves out. So when I tell people like, hey, you will probably work more than 40 hours a week. However, you're going to learn here more than anywhere else, and I promise you that. And you're going to own an entire area. And if you do well, you'll get promoted 2, 3 times in 3 years. So the opportunities are much higher. However, if you think it's going to be a relaxed job, you're going to hate it. And we're going to part ways quickly. But being that distinct and that specific early on during the interview process, a lot of people actually weed themselves out who are not high performers. So you end up
yeah,
saving yourself a lot of time in interview process. And I've come to really appreciate that because you realize that you have only so much time, and interview takes forever. And it's exhausting. You know, People that
yeah.
are interviewing, they always think, hey, I'm so tired I have to do this interview. But they only have to do one. You as an interviewer might have to do 30, 40 of these things. And you have to be very, very conscious, very critical, have to think about every single detail. And the personality is very different. You have to kind of attract and understand who they are. So that's a complicated topic, right?
Oh yeah, hiring team is so important though, and I'm glad that you want to hire people who are doers, that are motivated, that are going to inspire, and that you're so honest and tell them that they have to work hard. It's not
Yeah.
like it's a cushy job. Like if you want to rise to top in this company, you're going to be rewarded for the work you put in as a high performer. Any other tips you want to leave our audience
Yeah, 100%. We give
about?
every single person a case study, and we make the case study as close as possible to the actual job. Because when I ask you, hey, influencer marketing, how good are you at this? People say every person says amazing. I've never heard anyone say I'm really bad at it. Every job. But then we actually tell them, okay, great. The case studies for you will get one influencer. We'll pay for it. But you got to go get one influencer and show us. And 99% of people just fail. And they just come back like, never mind. And we do this with content. We do this, let's say, write a blog for us. If you want to be a writer, write a blog for us. If you're SEO, design some SEO. We'll pay you for the actual case study. But the amount of people who, number one, either don't do it, don't start at all, or they just tell us, never mind, I changed my mind, or they do it and it's just terrible,
Yeah,
right? And so by doing those case studies, two things happen. One, you get to see who actually can do it and can't. Two, again, the candidate gets to see what the kind of job they're going to be doing. So if they do, even if they do pass, sometimes they pass and they say, this is not for me. Because one of the biggest obstacles is this. You might hire someone who's really smart and passionate, but when they start, they realize that's not the job they like. And then they quit anyways. And you spend 3, 4 months training them. If you restart again, and you might have lost your second or third best candidate because you hired this individual. So that part's also very critical and it's tricky. So I always tell people make sure that job interview feels like the real job. So there's never any surprises.
I love that. And plus, they have to prove that they can do it because anyone can say, I'm great. Everybody obviously says, I'm great. But when it comes to
Everyone.
influencers, you want to see if they actually have any influence.
I will tell you once in a while, people will sometimes say, oh, I'm a 6 out of 10 on this topic. And that's why I'm like, the fact that this person's self-aware about their skills oftentimes reflects very well on them because you know that now they're willing to improve in a certain area. So I'm a big fan of people who are, even if they're not the best at something, but they're self-aware and they'll share that they're not the best at something. Those people are rare, but when they do it, when you do find them, I usually try to grab those people because you know they're willing to learn and they're aware about their positives and negatives.
I love that because I'm so into personal development and personal growth, and I love the way you encourage people to be honest and open. And I know you and I met on LinkedIn, which is actually my favorite social media. Where can people find more of you?
Sure. People can check me on LinkedIn. Easiest place, Dan Zavorotny. People can also email me, dan@nutrisense.io. Always happy to help other entrepreneurs answer any questions. The one note I'll tell you, I always tell people be very specific in questions. Sometimes people email and it's like, show me about marketing. And I tell people you can easily Google it. But if it's something very, very specific, that gets me excited. And other entrepreneurs also want to help when you're specific, not just broad, like, tell me about business. Those things can be taught, online by themselves.
Well, thanks for being an awesome guest on Whole CEO with Lisa G. Dan Zavorotny.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.